and welcome to the very 6th Back Pocket Game Club, the Game Club, where we pick one game a month to play through on stream with our community, either watching or you guys are playing at the same time. And at the end of the month, we go deep on that title. We break it down full spoiler mode and to talk about it as much as we want. I am Nick Richardson, and I am joined by the very timely Gus Ronald.
Hey.
Stephanie Bear Dixon.
Hi.
And Peter Burns.
Hi.
Did I miss Gus doing that as the first one, or Steph, was that your choice to do that?
That was my choice.
That was great.
I sometimes struggle with what to do with my hands.
It's a stylish game we're looking at, so we all pull poses. We're like, hi. We went anime.
But also, I feel like because we're going to be going back to the studio relatively soon, we're going to lose the opportunity to have single cameras on us. So these kind of one by one.
Some of us are.
Well, yes. These, little pose moments, we need to absorb them and make the most of them while we can.
Mm-hmm.
Until we buy 1,000 more cameras.
Yeah, we can do that, right? If enough people subscribe to Patreon, we
that
can
makes
totally
sense.
do that. It's a financially prudent
That's
investment.
what our 2-couch show needs, is 8 more cameras.
Well, the September Back Pocket Game Club title was Deathloop, a time loop murder mystery starring the voice talents of James McAvoy, Daisy Ridley, and Willem Dafoe. Sorry, I mean a time loop murder mystery from Arkane Studio. And speaking of time loops, I swear to God I've said this sometime before, but this Game Club episode is sponsored by Timothy Chu. Timothy, a self-described designer of worlds and builder of avatars, and I can't think of a more appropriate show for a builder of worlds to sponsor than this Deathloop episode, which is one of the more unique worlds we've seen in a video game. So thank you very much, Timothy, for sponsoring the Game Club and making sure we could all get together in this one location at the same time to record this conversation. Oh God, it's a trap, guys! It's trying to break the loop! It's trying to break the loop!
You had a plan from the beginning.
When in doubt, incest.
Yeah. This is really a two-parter. You'd really need to have watched the previous Game Club about a completely different game to get most of what's going on in this one.
Well, but you do make the point of time loops are in at the moment, and I don't know if it was like, this game's been in development for a while, but the fact that they're all landing around the same time, it's become the next genre that everyone's like, time loop. It's where it's all at.
Totally.
Time loop and incest.
They go hand
in hand
put it all in the
with each
Battle
other.
Royale, you got yourself the best game of the year.
Yeah.
And the time loop and incest nearly go hand in hand in this game as well. So it is totally.
That's a good point.
So let's talk about this incesty time loop game. It's called Deathloop. You play as Colt, who wakes up on a beach to discover he's trapped in a time loop where no one dies. He's been hunted by a woman named... no one dies forever, technically. He's been hunted by a woman named Juliana, who seems to know him far better than he knows her. And there are a bunch of egomaniacal assholes on the island he's going to need to knock off to break the loop. And Gus was lead on the game this month. And if there's one thing we know about Gus, he loves menus, tutorials, and hand-holding in video games. So let's see how he coped with Deathloop.
So we play as Colt. Cool. Explain the game to me now. It's my first Deathloop. Gargle, gargle, gargle. Is he pissing? Time to kill him. Oh, he's fabulous as well.
What the fuck?
Yeah, tell me about it. Out of control, out of control. I am out of control. Everything at once. Alright, I'm gonna do better than that. Oh no, I pressed a button and lost a tutorial. Shit. I haven't picked up a firecracker yet. What do they do? Makes sense. It's almost like run faster. Ah! Sorry. That's a grenade, Gus. Jesus. That's cool. How far is the range of this? Ready? Oh shit! Whoa! Shit! This is messy. Just leave it, Gus. Don't do it when you're almost there.
One of these assholes is Alexis.
Just walk around the corner. Hi. I like being faster than the game is. For instance, I could do this. Here, have a knife. Or a neck snap. Ah!
He tethered on the way down.
I'm literally trying to take cover and there's text in the way. This is so spicy. That was fun, and I'd like to do more of that.
Jesus! Fuck! Fuck! Step 1. Carl's Bay, kill Harriet, sabotage fireworks. Let's do this. Shit! Messy, everyone. That's done. Level 25, 8, 407. 25. Both dead? Get me the hell out of here. Oh shit, big death party already?
Hello.
Fuck off. What? Oh, it's Eagle! You know what? Fuck it. Got him. Jesus! Wedgie? It was Wedgie! I was like, why isn't she dying? Alright, game, explain yourself.
Where we kill each other.
On 3.
Ah, shit. So, hi everyone, welcome to the stream. What did we do?
3.
No. What?
Boo. Great end. He's still confused. He still doesn't know.
Still not quite sure. So it's a time loop. Right.
Oh, yes.
So
It all makes sense now.
that was the Gus Ronald experience of the game. And let's start with Gus. Go around the room for a quick temperature check. How do we feel about Deathloop?
Sure.
Gus.
Overall, really happy with it. I had a great time, if that's my like one line on the back of the box kind of thing. And
I don't think that's making it to the back of the box. Overall, I like it. I had a great time.
The second, slightly more detailed version of that is probably very cold at the start on it in terms of, I think if anyone watched the stream, the way it has to be introduced to you very laboriously with a lot of text, a lot of hand-holding. The middle section is fantastic once you finally start to feel really in control and you start putting all the pieces in a row and start lining up all your targets and learning and understanding what the game's doing. And then kind of dropped off at the end. I mean, big expectation for a kind of where was this going? What was all of this leading to? And we'll obviously talk about endings later on, but I found it was definitely one of them that kind of dropped the ball and right at the last minute, as we saw in that little playback. So, but that feeling of going from cold to hot in the middle was great. Like, it wasn't a game where I was super excited to start playing it, and it wasn't like that. There was that feeling straight away of once I was into the game, straight away being like, yes, this is what I was looking forward to. It was a disappointment for the first 2 hours, and then that feeling gradually heating up out of that was really fun. And I'm so glad I persisted with it because, that led to those middle sort of, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours that just felt fantastic to be drip-fed stuff and in control and working out what I was doing. Because it's discovery, I think, it sums up this game, like discovering how you play, what your goal is, how to put it all together. While it is a very linear game, I think it does it in a way that makes you feel like you are being carried through a unique journey that you still have a lot of decisions in and that kind of thing. So that's really unique. And in that sense, I think, totally commended for being a very different kind of game these days. I liked it a lot.
You're still angling for that box quote. And just
I loved it, but I'm like, no, in hindsight, I did not come out of this like, I loved this. I was like, I very much liked it. Gus Ronald.
Gus, if you're not getting on the back of the box, Steph, you're definitely not getting on the back of the box. How did you feel about Deathloop?
So I did not finish it. I'm so sorry. I gave it a red hot go, but I think I went into this not super excited about it the way that everyone else was. I kind of knew based on the sort of trailer and stuff that it wasn't a game that I was going to be particularly drawn to. And I think when we talked about it initially in Back Pocket, I was frustrated by a few things, the lack of difficulty options and I guess the time loop aspect of it. I enjoy time loop in narrative games when it's part of a story device, but any game that involves a lot of repetition, I don't enjoy. I find that frustrating. I think it's why it's what's kept me away from the Dark Souls games as well, because I feel like, if you mess up and you have to replay, sections of the game, I start to get really demoralized by that. In saying that, after that, when I went back to it, I started to get a lot more confident with it. I think, like Gus was saying, it's a difficult opening to the game because they have to explain a lot of different mechanics to you and what you're doing here while still being mysterious and cool and stylish. But once I became more confident with it and I had the ability to start infusing weapons and stuff like that, I definitely started to enjoy it a bit more. And I think the only reason why I didn't finish it and won't, although just full disclosure, I've watched videos and I saw the ending and I've caught myself up in the story and everything for the purposes of this stream. I think the only reason why I won't finish it is just because there's so many other games right now that I would rather be putting time to. But I think maybe I would have eventually got through it because I got a lot more confident with it. So yeah, I think it was really stylish and it was cool. It's just not my favorite kind of game to play.
Peter, you like failure and getting better at something?
I'm certainly familiar with failure.
You like being stubborn about something and then until you fix it.
I think Deathloop is just shy of brilliant. I think it's superb in a lot of ways, and I think is really approachable. That, like Gus, I know the onboarding was a bit slow for you, but I think if I'm given the choice between this and Outer Wilds as another version of a similar idea, mechanically very different games, but similar ideas of pulling a story together out of a world, I much prefer being told more about what to do than the absolute laborious version of something like Outer Wilds.
You're losing Nick.
This just sets everything up for you and lets you start checking the boxes and start enjoying the game immediately, as opposed to asking you to go and find the joy in the game. And I really appreciated that. I enjoyed it out of the gate. And then I think the way that the game is built for you to scale within it, to become more powerful, some of the things that I was enjoying about it started to drop off. I mean, pretty quickly, it's like I found the idea of combat very uninteresting because the AI is bad. The AI in the game is just bad. It's not fun to engage with, I found. And so, yes, it's very much a puzzle game in how that it's set out to get through a level and meet your objectives along the way. And they're not meant to be. The game isn't meant to be a shooter, but it is a shooter. So that the disassociation there is something that I struggled to get my head around throughout the whole game, basically.
Yeah.
And it felt like a weak point to me. But I loved so many elements. I love the invasion, and we'll talk a bit more about the invasion mechanic as well as an extra layer of that. And ultimately, I think it's a brilliant game. But there's moments that really let it down, I think.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I fell.
You said at the beginning of this that you thought it was just short of brilliant.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's the other side of brilliant. I think it's brilliant plus one.
Beyond brilliant.
Yeah, it's beyond brilliant. I think
put that on
literally the ending is the only thing that I can ding it for. And even that I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I think this is total game of the year material for me. This is game of the last 5 years for me, potentially. I think that what it's doing is so ambitious. I think that there are so many games in this game, and I think that part of the brilliance of it is that it comes across as, even though there's a lot to learn and there's a lot of systems and processes, I think that it seems, I've seen some criticism where it's like, oh, it took too long to get going and whatever. And I think that from my perspective, it's like, I think that is there because it's actually like, there is so much it has to explain that it is you the game, how do I put this? The game is presenting itself as being something simpler than it is. So therefore, we sort of like are judging it on like, oh, it should have just like gotten going faster. And it's like, no, what it's trying to do is teach you how to play like 4 games at once and teach you this like different way of approaching something. But it's doing it so smoothly that we think it's Far Cry. We think it's something that we kind of know. And it's like, yeah, just let me get at it. And the game's like, no, wait. We've only told you 2 of the 4 games that you're playing so far.
You think you know, you actually don't know what this is.
Totally.
Hold up a sec,
And I think that it does it so well that we go, oh, we're kind of judging it against other games when actually I'm like, I just don't know how they got to this. I don't know how they sort of put all this together and when, all these decisions, not only this is how we got here, but we're going to make it all work. I found it just constantly fun. I think that, and we spoke about this on the show a couple of weeks ago, I think the enemy AI is kind of right for what it is. I totally know what you mean, Pete, about the idea that it's presenting as a shooter, so it should be a shooter, or it's hard for you to wrap your head around that you're not facing challenge with the shooting. But I found that it was like, the shooting was always fun. The combat was always fun for me because at the beginning it was a shooter and it was scary. And by the end, it was a dance of just like the enemies aren't even enemies. And I'm just using guns as almost a navigation device. It was just like, I need to zip that person, shoot them, and if they do that, and if I kill like these 7 people with 1 shot, then now I have access to this area. And so to me, it was like a grapple or something of just like, I just need to get rid of that, and now I have this play space to be in. So yeah, I am so over the moon with this game, and it really feels like I think the culmination of what Arkane have tried to do over the last sort of like 6 to 8 years. I think if you look at, obviously there's 2 Arkane Studios, there's Leon and Austin, but they sort of share a workload, but they also share an ethos. And I think that if you look at games like Dishonored and Prey, and Dishonored was a series that like, I really want to get into Dishonored, but I just feel constantly punished by that game. I feel like if you're not playing as stealth, then you may as well not be playing that game because the game goes, no, this is a stealth game and you're screwing it up. And it never really clicked for me for whatever reason. And Prey, I think, is brilliant in everything except for the combat. And I find the combat, I found it pretty like dull. And this really feels like, hey, we figured it out. We finally got there. And so I'm just like, it must be so good as a studio to put out something where you're like, this is the masterwork. Like we did it. We achieved the thing that we have tried for so long to really nail, because you can see the DNA in their other games in Deathloop. And totally. I guess saying that it is a series of games, like Gus, it's a shooter, it's a stealth game, it's a puzzle game, it's an immersive sim, it's a time loop narrative game. Do you think that the blend works? Do you like, obviously I'm super keen on it, but do you feel like that blend of genres works and was exciting to see?
Yeah, I think they were on the right path to creating a game that allows you to have multiple, as you said, games within it, or play styles, as it were. I think what it does is allows people to have different play styles, and so therefore, like when I found one that worked for me, I kind of stuck to it. I know within that there's also, I guess, a puzzler, and there's that sort of immersive sim element to it as well, and that kind of stuff. I did find that my gamer brain was just trying to revert back to just playing it like a shooter, just because of the perspective and the weapons. And so it took a little bit of time for me to sometimes play it like a platformer, puzzler, or as you said, so you're using these guns as tools and that kind of thing. And when I did, I found that really satisfying. But I don't think watching back on a lot of footage, other people's footage, stuff like that, I don't think I got to enjoy nearly as much of what the game had on offer, because of how it let me play pretty basically. I limited myself to the slabs that I liked, to the weapons that I liked. I've seen footage, like even in the opening that we played, that was like, wow, I never even knew you could do that, go near that. And in terms of replayability, I think that's fantastic. But
are you saying that the game gave you lots of different options on how to play, but you stuck with one type of style and you're blaming the game for that?
Not so much it doesn't encourage, well, kind of in the sense that it doesn't encourage you to say like you have to switch up play styles to get past further challenges. Sure. You can find your gun and slab at the start and stick with that, and you won't be penalized. You won't get to a bottleneck where you find yourself limited to going, I really need to use telekinesis or something else to move through that. And I don't know, I feel like maybe it could have used a few moments like that. It was so, by sort of letting the reins loose on the way you can attack all these areas, that's freeing in one sense, but it does, as I said, make me unintentionally. I know what you're getting at, Steph. It's like that's on me to kind of explore what the game has to offer.
Not necessarily. I agree. There's some games that I've played where it does force you to I'm trying to think of an example. This is a poor example, but like Ratchet and Clank, how we'd say that you'd have like all of those different guns, but you run out of ammo on them, so it's forcing you to switch guns really often. I mean, that's a clever device because I probably would have, stuck with the same thing otherwise.
Yeah, or even Dishonored, where like halfway through you lose all your gear or whatever, and it's like crawl back out of the sewers, and now you have to play differently to how you've been playing with some equipment that you've been equipped with.
Yeah. I do think though the rewind mechanic though is an opportunity to kind of try something different. I feel like if I attempted something and then I died and then it kind of rewound me a bit, that was kind of my opportunity to be like, okay, maybe this gun wasn't the right choice, or maybe I should try and be stealthier on this way. And so in that way, I think the game is kind of like, presenting you with opportunities to try something different.
Yeah, but and this is naively asking because I never really worked it out. There were a few things in the game that I was still like, I'm still not quite sure how this thing worked. From memory, the rewind mechanic still keeps all the people you killed. It's like you just go back, but your progress is there. So it's not a traditional rewind in the sense that you can then go, all right, I'll try that. But I get what you mean. You're like, that clearly led to a death, so I should try a different play style. And look, as I was going to say, games can go too far the other direction and be like, you must use this thing here in this little section, and it's like then you're not playing a game, you're just following prompts. And so I think finding a middle ground is what they've done, and I think maybe that's more for return playthroughs. I would like to go through now and like take the stealth boots off and go in, and try a few more slabs and stuff like that. So in terms of
what did you run with most of the time? Did you approach it as a stealth game?
Totally 100%. I stealth, pistol headshotted, crawled, and linked everyone, and like tried to avoid conflict. And in the way that
you used Nexus, the linking slab.
Nexus for linking and shift to jump around, and I kept it as little people, because I found that was the most. I agree with what Pete said, that the AI is clunky, so it's really satisfying then to take them out without you knowing, because you never really feel like, you don't see them jank in that sense. Whether when they all get startled and they start running around, it kind of feels like, well, this is all a bit messy, as you saw in my playthrough. But it's like, so it was still, I found it satisfying to be stealth and to be on top of any of the combat scenarios. But I did see, as I said, stuff that I want to enjoy in there that's different. But to answer your question from the start, I think they gave the opportunities. There are the opportunities to have different play styles and to try different things in a game that you wouldn't usually play, especially if you saw this as a shooter and went, I'm going to dive in and try this, like Far Cry or something you said. The only thing I will just quickly say as well, to the point that you guys both made when you were talking about, and this isn't like me defending myself, I don't think the intro was slow. I loved the time it spent. For me, as Nick said, it was the messaging and the wording and the way it kept coming up and the way it kept talking into your ear and showing you. And I wonder if that's the studio having to coming up with a really ambitious idea for a game, and then like movies and producers having to go like, guys, we've got to get people on track about how this all works. So there needs to be more prompts. There needs to be more diaries. There need to be more voiceovers telling and understanding and what's going on. Because that just, for me, I would have loved your Dark Souls version where it's like, I want to discover that stuff. I want to do it and get confused for the first 2 hours and then be like, I think I'm working it out myself. Whereas I was being told that a lot. And I think for me, that was my biggest gripe with the beginning of the game. It was the way the information was delivered to you, often too much, often all at once. So that was probably my gripe. The length of time it took to get there is necessary because it's ambitious as a concept. So
are you talking about the sort of the world and the story more specifically than the gameplay mechanics, or both?
No, I'm talking more probably about
everything was like pop up.
They play into the world, but they are all to do with the gameplay in theory. They're telling you how to rewind time, how you have lives, how Juliana exists. You're doing it all through a kind of amnesia voice perspective, but you're also getting logs written from you in the future. You're also getting text written on the walls that's telling you things cryptically, which is really stylistically cool. But then you're also getting a voice memo that's written in a cool style, which then when you finish looking at, the voiceover comes over and says, I reckon that was this. And then a menu will come up saying tooltip, and then a mission
That
objective
was
will
this.
come up saying, that was it again. And you're like,
Yeah.
like that's when my anxiety's kicked off. So
Yeah,
look,
that was
I do
stressful.
think that was probably what they have to do at the
Yeah.
tail end of the production, because this game with no training wheels, with just like less information, I think would have been really mysterious and maybe a little more up my alley.
I think so too. I think part of what the effect that all of that had was that, and I'll piss Nick off here, is that it set the game up to be smarter than I think it was ultimately. What the fuck are you doing? like I was like, when I was getting put through all that, I was like, I'm going to have to retain a lot of information.
Yeah.
And that's why it's giving it to me. And you don't have to retain any information.
No.
It all gets logged. And at the end of the day, it's so linear. There's really only one way to do it, to finish it. There's only one way to finish it.
Yeah.
There's literally only one way to finish it. There's different ways to encounter, as you're getting your puzzle pieces, there's different ways to get the puzzle pieces, but the puzzle only goes together one way at the end. And so that was a bit of a disappointment to me to realize that while it was satisfying to not have to, again, like spend a lot of time thinking about how it all works, because it just works because it funnels you through it really, really seamlessly.
But you were like, at the end of the day, everyone is going to be using the robot to create a voice memo message for Wenji to get her to the party. And there's no other way that you can get the Wenjis to the party at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. There's no way for me to go like, I want to try and accomplish this end game result in a slightly different way.
Which the
it's
game's
the
set
same
up
for
in
every
trailer
single person that plays it. They do it the same
I would
way.
say the game's trailers and all the marketing material on the way there was definitely leaning towards the impression of that, which is not at fault of the developers or anything, but it definitely set itself up as like a mystery that you need to solve, where it's like you actually are just following markers every time. Which
it reminded
felt great what was happening, but sad when it finished to be like, oh yeah, I wish there was some like you could
Did I do anything smart, or did I just
follow that orange marker?
The marker that's there the whole game.
It reminded me a lot of BioShock in that you're kind of thrown into this world and you're kind of uncovering why everything is the way it is as you go. I think probably the thing that I thought was coolest was that text on the wall thing, which I don't know if that's just elements of Colt's subconscious or the disassociation that he had or things like that. But I found that a really stylish and cool way to kind of keep reinforcing the story and the things that happen. So if I was ever a bit confused, he'd be like, oh, this is because of that happening, or she's trying to convince you of this. Remember, this is your goal. And I found that kind of stuff kept me on track. And sort of what Peter was saying before is that even though it did seem so confusing at the start, in the way it kind of presented so many things to you, I found the sort of time of day thing to be a bit confusing at first. I would often choose a mission, but I'd chosen the wrong time of day, and then I would go into an area, and then the marker would send me back through the door.
Exit.
Yeah, so I was frustrated by stuff like that.
Which is sadder when you get that little victory screen of him going, "Yeah, day complete."
But it says like what you accomplished was you were just killing time, and I was like, that's a clever pun. That's a clever pun.
True. But I think once I kind of realized that effectively you're just following an objective marker each time, and my personal loop was that I would approach everything with an attempt to be stealthy, end up breaking stealth and then shooting everyone. And sometimes that was successful quickly and sometimes it was not. But I enjoyed that it was kind of a mixed bag. I found the first Wenji encounter for some reason was really hard for me. And then the next person I killed, I just did it in a few seconds. And I was like, oh.
I think when you bring up Wenji is interesting because Wenji, like, there's these 8 key figures to kill, right? And
visionaries.
I think they're really well established in audio logs and in text and in the sense that you get of them.
Yep.
But the encounter with them is never. I didn't find
it's not a boss
any
fight.
of the other encounters with them. Wenji obviously splits up, and that's like the one that is like the most visually and mechanically like a thing you have to achieve. Whereas all the other ones are pretty basic. I think maybe Igor goes invisible, but that's just he's just using his slab.
Yeah, like Charlie
so it's
uses his shift slab and stuff as well. Like they use their slabs, but they don't like. It's not like they have particularly. They have a bit more health. Like you can't headshot one of them.
Harriet you sneak up on every time. So Harriet, like you take her out every time. And Frank, you don't even see. You're right, because he's in theory, if you've killed him correctly, he's off camera. And then like Fia and Charlie, if you take them out successfully, they are two heads on a little gangway over in a section that you just kind of headshot and they die. And you're like, I didn't really see them.
Or you drown them and just walk off. Like you don't even need to shoot.
Was it ever explained why some people retain their memories?
No.
With each loop and most people don't?
No, but
yes and no.
I think for Colt, right? Colt was like the first person to ever come to this island before Aeon was ever here. Eon. He was there with so like narratively, Colt is born in the early 1900s. He is a pilot. He flies to this island with the Horizon group before Aeon exists. He gets stuck on the island in his own time loop and goes insane. He kills himself, which breaks the loop for himself, and then he can fly. He flies a plane out and crashes it. By the time he gets back to reality, he's left his partner behind who's had a kid. He's found as this crazy person that they put him into an institution, in the 40s, I guess. And then it's only when and there's
I think it's in the late mysteries 50s, of the island. But yes,
late 50s, yeah. Oh, but I think he comes back to the mainland earlier and he gets locked away for years again.
Yes, yeah.
When he's back, and the Eon Initiative goes like, we want to get there, and Igor pulls him out of the asylum, and they go and takes him there as their head of security because he's been there before. So they need his knowledge, and by the time he gets there, his daughter, we find out, is a 17-year-old who, or maybe older than that. I think she's a bit older than that. She feels like 30 or something. But she's been around and she knows of him, presumably, because of her mother telling her who her father was. But when you start the game, obviously, as Colt, you don't really know that that's your daughter, though you may have at some point because of the way that everything that's happened to you has affected your memory and stuff. He remembers it because he's been and gone is the theory there.
Yeah, right.
That's why he retains his memory. He's come back to it. But there is a side character that you meet called Pike. I think Pike or Pick Wexley.
Pick Wexley.
Yeah. And they also have broken the loop. They kill themselves at the end of every day, which is why there's the idea that choosing to kill yourself can set that off. But then there's other more casual talk about people, the other people Eternalists choosing to kill themselves just because they can, and it's part of the fun of this place that resets.
And Juliana's motivation.
That's a locked theory.
Because I understand he's trying to break the loop because he wants to live. He wants everyone here to live a normal life with consequence and a finite ending and stuff like that. And she obviously likes the loop and she wants to be there. But at the same time, she seems to be like pro him trying to destroy it because she enjoys trying to stop him. Is that a thing? Because I found her motivations really weird.
Her motivation is weird.
Yeah.
She's just set up as like a bit of a psychopath.
Right.
She just enjoys murder, which is the only reason why she likes it still going on.
Yeah,
and she knows it's her dad.
Yeah, there's a bit of like he left her style thing going on. So she's just taking revenge on him over and over again and sort of like fucking with him. So because the whole, like that whole reveal stuff kind of like because it sort of implies that there's something more between them and you think it's a relationship. Like they were a couple or something, but then
he even initiates flirt.
Yeah, it's a bit flirty at one point. Yeah,
and then I actually really like that she's like, yeah, no, I know you were trying to do that. Like you thought you were gonna fuck me, and he's like, yes. I mean, no. I mean, and she just sort of like makes him really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like roughly, but it's pretty quick. Like that happens, and like 12 minutes later, you find out that she's the daughter. So it's pretty quick.
Oh well, it also happened after that. Yeah, and after that, he like goes. He's talking about it. He's like, why did you let me say those things? 12 minutes. I see what's happening. That was too casual. what were we talking? Oh, sorry. So what were we talking about?
Remembering that you're in the loop.
Yeah, thank you. But going back even further than that, I think that part of the brilliant thing about this, Gus, on your point about how the game doesn't really force you to engage in different ways, I've read a lot about it and heard a lot of people talk about it, and so many people go, "This is the way that I played, and I can't imagine anyone playing any other way." And nearly every single person has a different thing than what I consider, and I'm like, this is how you play, and there's no way you play any other way. And you and I were pretty similar. I used Shift and Nexus most of the time, and then at the end, I took the invisibility slab and replaced Nexus with invisibility just so I could like get out, because that last fucking castle thing is like the ramp up in difficulty just in terms of like enemy density is so enormous that it was like.
I want to circle back onto that just to talk about something in terms of how the game lets you play these things. But
I've heard people go like, who would ever use Shift? All I used was like the kinesis or whatever it is of like
throw them around,
people up and throw them around. And it's like, what do you mean? Who would ever use Shift? Shift was the number one thing I never ever did a run without it. And then people like, I don't know how you could play it as a stealth game. It's totally a shooter. And then other people go, no, it's absolutely a stealth game. And I'm like, it's interesting that the game. I think you're right, and I don't know whether it's like a positive or a negative, that I think that people sort of like honed in on a play style, and I think that they kind of honed in on the play style that they are just drawn to, and I think that it's a testament to the game that most of them hold up, as opposed to this idea of like
it's totally
being forced
broken
to play against what you would normally do. Because I think that the balancing act that is tricky, as Steph alluded to at the beginning, like having to replay the game so many times means that you get to know these areas really, really well. And like I knew these areas like the back of my hand. By the end of it, I knew where everyone was. I knew where the mines were, depending on what time of day, all that sort of stuff. But having to go through it over and over and over again, I don't necessarily always want it to be something that challenges me. I want the challenges to be like, okay, this big visionary, like I'm trying to get in here and get them. But if I'm just doing something like a side quest incidental thing, I wasn't looking for the map to challenge me when I've already been on this map 15 times. And I was kind of like, I just want to get here and do this, but I still want it to be fun getting there and doing it. And that to me is where I found that the balance really worked of like, at no point was I like, oh God, I have to go to this map and do this thing. I was still always really excited about it because I just loved moving around this space, and every run I found something. I just always found something. I explored everywhere, but there was always something where it was like, this is worth it. And even if there wasn't information, there was still the backup that I could pick up some weapons to get and infuse something and sort of like be able to, like take something else with me into another run.
I don't think I ever felt the need to do those ones where it was like, oh, there's nothing to do here, or I've got 2 time jumps to make, or like in the day to get to the evening. I'm going straight there. I'm not going to like go and muck around because I had some spare time, or kill time, as it were. But I know exactly what you mean, and I'd agree with that point that I never found myself going like, oh my God, I'm back here, and it's like, no, I'm back here because I'm going to do something to find out what the reaction happens or how this area changes thanks to that thing. And I feel like it's a testament that all those threads, all those orange markers you're following each time are like, a breadcrumb trail. You're like, oh, I'm excited to get back into this area so I can run straight past this stupid area on my right and go straight to the gallery I've never been into yet and discover something new in it. So I think that was fantastic. I didn't realize as well that a couple of the areas actually aren't available at certain times. So there were a couple. There weren't as many options as it originally sounded. If you just went, there were 4 time periods to all 4 areas or so.
Maps,
which I thought was interesting. The point I wanted to just make as well was on what Pete said about the game kind of feeling a bit smarter than it was. I agree with, in one sense, to do with the visionaries in particular and how they were all set up to be these sort of super interlinking, setting up this domino effect that they're all going to die and it's all going to happen in a certain way, because I was personally really disappointed by how the game let me, in particular with Alexis, who's the guy running the party at the very end. You needed to go through and you needed to finish a story mission there, which was to lure him out with music to actually finish that quest, in theory. I'd killed him before that happened, and so I had to go back and do it. But it was like, well, I'd killed him, so isn't that successful? And the game's like, no, you need to do it the way we've set up this story, because we've got a cutscene here of him coming out to the dance floor and dancing by finding his musical tapes, programming the DJ booth, and working out how to get him out. So I'd killed him before, then I went back and did it the right way to get the story to finish. And then when it got to the final loop that I needed to break, it was...
Just to interject, I never bothered finishing it that way. I never got that cutscene. I just knew what he looked like, so I killed him.
Yeah,
Okay,
I did the
right.
same thing. And there's also another way, which I found, where you can kill him by like cutting off the beer tap for his favorite drink, and then he goes downstairs. I think, or it's chocolate milk or something, and you cut it off.
Chocolate beer.
Yeah, and then chocolate beer, and then you hide downstairs, and he comes down to like where the kegs are to fix it, and then you just like kill him.
Okay. Look, then I'm happy to walk that back and say, yeah, that's interesting. What isn't interesting is what you might have seen in that playthrough, which is that I stirred the shit up in the castle party right at the end by mistake. I overstepped my stealth, and everyone just started running around, and I found myself stuck in a little room with a one doorway, and I just kept killing people. I couldn't get out. I was like, I can't get out.
In one of those scenarios as well.
I was like, every time I go to leave, there were 5 more people. And I will give the game credit. It did really make me fearful for getting killed. Like, you do die quickly, or at least the build I had. I was like, it's pretty easy to die. Your health, you need to pick up that health that's everywhere. But if you find yourself cornered without health, you're kind of screwed.
And limited ammo as well. It doesn't give you heaps and heaps of ammo.
Unless you pick up the gun that I loved, which gave you with the vampire SMG that gave you health back when you every time you damage an enemy.
Alexis drops 2 SMGs of those, so I think everyone had them in their arsenal at one point, which is helpful because you're like, I need health, I'm going to get it by shooting. And yeah, I stuck my head out eventually. I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? And then it just went, Alexis has died. And I was like... No idea how. No idea how.
Yeah, wow.
Chat didn't know how. It was like, and then I think I mentioned to you, Nick, it was at this point that I thought the game was not broken, but I was like, well, this isn't how the game set it up. It wanted me to go in there and DJ his music and then snipe him from the balcony and play the way a more linear game would have made me have to do it, otherwise fail state. And it was at that point, not right at the end, I was like, fuck it, this is how I finished the loop. Like, he's going to die by, I don't know, stepping on a landmine. And then I climbed up to the roofs, and Wenji got on the roof with me. I'm like, what are you doing here? You're meant to be having a conversation with someone, as I quietly garrote you and then let Nexus you all together. I was like, nah. And then I saw a guy miles away and sniped him, and it was Igor, and he starts running around. I'm like, this is a mess. This is a hot mess, and I'm loving it. And I was like, it was... Yeah.
I imagine it must be so hard for developers, because in giving the player more freedoms, then they're having to be okay with the idea that all the cool moments they put in the game for you to encounter may be missed by... You may miss all of them and just, find some way to kind of cheese it unintentionally. And it's almost like in some moments you're like, maybe you should make this more linear, or maybe you should make this only one way to finish this mission so that the player has the best experience, but then you remove that freedom and it becomes a different game.
Particularly in that end castle thing, like the first time I did this, I hacked 5 turrets and set them all up one by one in the entrance, and just everyone came out, and with the turrets and me, I killed everybody except for even Alexis ran out, except for Igor and Wenji, and then I just like zipped up to the roof, and they were the last 2 people on the map alive, and it was like
this party's pretty lame. But that's fun. At least that one, and I agree totally, Steph, with what you're saying. I think like that bit I had at the end where I was enjoying it, I think felt fun and loose and chaotic. Nick's version with the turrets, I think, is like a clever spin on what happened. I think only one point in the game, a similar time where I found myself stuck, was I was just throwing Nexus, which is the one that will link anyone who's near each other, and if you kill them, but I was using it not in the way that the game intends, which is to link a bunch of people and silently snap one neck and suddenly everyone drops to the ground. I was just...
That's entirely intended.
What? The way I was doing it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It didn't feel like it. I was hurling it at the doorway, and so every time someone would step in front of the doorway, they had 20 links behind them, and I'd go, shoot them, walk out, and then there'd be 20 dead people. And I was using it to kind of Hail Mary, like, just please go away.
No, I did that totally, and particularly if you keep upgrading that slab, and it starts to like, it threads out to more people, like more and more, and so it's like they're in that party. Like if you get someone at the door, you can nearly fill that entire room.
I wonder
it's just
if
like one shot, and then just all these bodies fall.
It'd be amazing to find the people who, like, I don't have the sort of draw to go back and play the single player like that, but I'm sure there are people who for a long time now will be like, here's how I did this amazing thing in Deathloop by utilizing some of these abilities. And I think, as I said, like giving you these really crazy tools and opening it up, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think, people will find their moments like I had my moment. They'll miss their moments as well, but that's the good with the bad, I think, and there's more good than bad in this, so...
Yeah, totally. I think it's like there's fun things to try once, and then like for me, they were fun once, and then they weren't fun again. Like,
yeah, right.
Nexus was like, absolutely, all of that stuff. and I got Juliana invading every time I played a match, right? So it was like, by even the end of my third day, I had upgrades to Nexus slabs out the wazoo kind of thing. So it was like, I was so overpowered early on that I just felt like there's no point in engaging with anything unless I want to play with the AI.
Yeah.
In versions of like trying things out, trying out kinesis for a bit, trying out the connecting everyone together kind of stuff. And like by the like I guess a third of the way through the game, I just stopped engaging with the AI at all unless I had this is my footage. Juliana invaded, and that slows everything down. And they were the most interesting parts of the game to me as Cult, was when, oh shit, there's a human trying to kill me, and suddenly my total control over this game has been reduced to this is now cat and mouse, and I have the disadvantage because everything else is trying to kill me.
Yeah, it's it's like mouse and 40 cats and one really smart cat
and a panther.
Yeah.
And so like there was that. I think that was a really, really great element. Obviously, the balance to that is the Cult gets 3 lives and Juliana only gets 1. Which
does she?
Yes,
she does. Yeah.
Absolutely, she does.
Sorry, I'm thinking of the other way around when I was a Juliana and I was trying to, yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. So Juliana can only die the once, but she needs to kill Colt 3 times or cause Colt to die 3 times. Yes. Or just, you don't have to.
Or Colt has to have used his, like, you can have died twice
catch
and
him on the
last
third
life.
Yeah. Juliana can also just help. Juliana's doesn't need to kill
Interesting.
Colt. You can just go in and kill whoever you want. So you can you can mess with Colt by killing Igor when they're on a run to try and get Igor's slab or whatever and just be in the way, which is an interesting dynamic. And, people were I know a lot of people were having fun with the Juliana side of things, which is you invade with a different set of gear. You do end up like accumulating basically the same stuff that Colt has. But, it's more about setting traps and being the cat and trying to find out where Colt is based on the kind of trail of destruction that he's left behind on the map, which is a really interesting gameplay design element as well. Like, I think it's the strongest part of the game. The thing is, basically every time I had a Juliana encounter with a person, them invading me or me invading them, the connection was dog shit.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
It was just the netcode is awful. It's not really a multiplayer game. So a lot of really bad connections, which felt unfair for someone. I mean, that's the biggest thing, was just like zipping around the map unintentionally, not shifting, but just like bouncing because of netcode. So I think that's a shame, because I think it's the strongest part of the game. And also, as I mentioned when we talked about it on the main show, I do think that this has a shelf life as well, that people are going to fall off the idea of wanting to play Juliana. And
totally.
It's in a month's time or something, it's only going to be Colts left, and then it'll be Juliana will just be AI invasion, which is not as interesting.
Ash Ketchum, who I know is in the chat right now, but also wrote in our Discord that it's weird, but talking about the multiplayer, it's weird, but reminding me a lot of old Assassin's Creed multiplayer. And because I'm playing it like that, went on an 8 count last night without getting killed. And I totally agree of that idea of it being like, you can pretend to be like, she can disguise herself as something. You can pretend to be AI. You can like that sort of hunting someone, pretending to be part of the game is a really fun thing to do. But Pete, I think you're right that it's like, it's such a strength. I think it's really strong, but I never really engaged with it. I never played as Juliana. I was never interested in going into someone else's map and doing it. And whenever she turned up, I was like, this is really cool. I agree that if someone picks this game up in a sale in 2 years' time, they're probably just going to get AI, because I don't know if many people are going to be hanging around doing it. But I did have the thing of going, when she turned up, it was like, oh, she's fucking here to wreck my fun. And now I need to stop doing what I'm doing and go deal with this situation. And it was never, it certainly ratcheted up tension to a point where I had a run where it was like I had everything on the line with this one. It was I had so much stuff
now.
and I died twice. And so it was like, this is it. And it's so, and I was getting so tense, but I never really found it enjoyable. I think because unlike you, Pete, I think that like, I like feeling really good at a game, and I don't necessarily need it to constantly be challenging, because I feel like I got through the challenge. Like I made it through to halfway in the game when I am really overpowered. I also did not get invaded by Juliana nearly as much as you did. It sounds like you got so many, and because
pretty much every time I spawned in, like 4 times a day,
and you got through the
that
game
is
the quickest. So you were probably playing it when there were the most people on playing.
That is insane to me. I probably got invaded by Juliana, like honestly, 4 times, like in a 20-hour gameplay period. So
I had a suspicion that
was it people on your friends list, Peter, or was it just random?
Oh, you know what? You know what happened to you, Nick, that happened to me at the start was that we were playing on review build. Did you turn off your beta code?
No, I did not.
So you weren't playing on the public version of the game.
Reviewers.
Interesting, where you had Pete.
That's what it was.
Okay.
Or the AI when it chose to go, we got to throw in a Juliana.
I was under the suspicion that the invasions happened at, like, they've sort of were hinted at happening at more points through the story, not just totally like, it was just on this run. Because I did find myself, I kept going into one certain version of trying to kill Eagle, which even you mentioned, Pete. And every time I went into that one, I was getting invaded. And then I think I turned it off and I went in and the AI invaded me there anyway. So I was wondering if it's kind of the developers had put in these kind of, when you try to invade someone, it's trying to find someone at one of these points in the game. So you can't get totally ganked at just one area that's not important. So I'm speculating that's the case, but I feel like I got the perfect example with the invasion, which was that I had it on for humans at the start. I think the first one you run into is an AI one, and then I got a human came in and I stressed out, but we killed her. And then a little later on was getting taken out by a total troll who was super powered up, who I couldn't even see. She was invisible. Every bullet she hit me with sent me flying. It felt like the game was broken.
Me.
And it was totally unenjoyable.
With that explosive rapier.
Explosive rapier, and she's invisible. I was like, it was totally unenjoyable for 10 minutes. I then went and turned it off. I then played with the AI invasions the whole way through, knowing I was doing it for the GameClub. I was like, I got to get through this, and I don't want the stream to get bored. And I found like the challenge of her turning up still stressed me out. She was getting more powerful as the game went on, so I liked that they did obviously scale her up. She was having more abilities. By the end, she took like 10 shotgun blasts to take out, but she was still AI and she was still wonky. But I like that they kept her in there. And then if we'll switch over to just like, I then jumped over and invaded one game at the end of a stream, and it was one cult with 1 life left who was totally confused, who was running around crouched. Who I was the cat and the mouse was very confused. And then I basically just went behind them with the shotgun after like setting off some troops, shotgun in the back, got the kill. Never went, don't plan to go back to it. I was like, that was great. That was exactly what it is. So, like, I think people will enjoy sticking around for a certain amount of time, but there's definitely a shelf life. But I got my fill, I guess.
Yeah, there's an interesting ranking system built into the invasion thing as well, where you rank Juliana up and get more gear as you play it more as well. I assume that then that gives you like I had the feeling I only did it a few times. I probably hit like level 9 or 10 of 50. And I think that it starts to throw you into games with people who have been playing more, cults that are more geared up.
Well, there'll be people who love just playing this through again and again, I imagine.
Yeah, totally.
Lucas Horatio wrote into the Discord as well and said about the multiplayer. Oddly, I have more fun having people invade my game rather than invading others. How I beat the invaders, I can see would be nothing but irritating for them, but I have too much fun fucking with them. And I think that kind of touches on the thing for me, just in games in general. I have this weird sort of like, I don't like trolls. Like, I think this is why part of it is I don't like, you know how like I don't like imposter games and shit. I don't like when someone is deliberately trying to mess with what I am trying to do in the game. And so whenever Juliana turned up, it was just like, why are you doing
totally
this?
Fits in with that.
You have a fucking perfect video game here. Why are you wrecking it with Pete arriving, and all he wants to do is like wreck my fun so that he can have fun. It's like, no, that sucks. That sucks for me.
It's still funny that like in the age we are with video games as well, and interesting like asymmetrical multiplayer. I think Assassin's Creed was mentioned as one of the games I remember playing where you had to pretend to be AI, but like within a lot of AI, so it was really hard to distinguish. With outside of that, what this game does, what Dark Souls does, or doesn't do, I should say, is create a really sort of like a sense that that player could be anyone, because it is a big, empty-ish kind of world, like Dark Souls, and then you'll be looking out over the horizon at something, and you'll just see a player go like, and they just have such a
That
weird.
one's fake.
It feels like not only is that fake, that sticks out like a sore thumb, like in Dark Souls, someone like with a big sword in an area that you know enemies never stand there, and then there's someone kind of doing little funny circles on the spot, and you're like,
or the fact that like.
It's the same as Ash Ketchum was saying, as it being like Assassin's Creed or you know, one of those multiplayer games where you're kind of looking at a crowd of people and you see one person walking and maybe they did something weird and you're like, is that? And it's like almost like they can feel you looking at them and they go, oh God, and then they just suddenly sprint and jump over a wall and you're like, okay.
Anyone who moves in a video game that's AI moves at a very slow pace, and like the run in a video game is insanely fast. So it is this thing of just like everyone is just lazily walking between like 3 predetermined spots, and there's just someone sprinting.
Everyone looks so jumping in a game as another player. Just nothing looks natural. I think I switched when I was Juliana. I used the ability to turn into, so you turn a guard into Juliana, and you turn into the guard. And instantly on the stream, I was like, well, let's do this. Let's stand somewhere and let's do turn, and then we turn. And then we oh, this is so boring, and then just ran. And I was like, I like that it's there, but I instantly was like, this sucks. This
That's
isn't
the
like...
plot of Free Guy, I think.
Yeah, it's like, this is super boring, let's run around.
But something that we haven't touched on is the style and the tone and the like world building of the game, which I think is so strong. I love, like, I think that this is some of the best voice acting in a video game. I think that any time that Juliana and Cole started talking to each other, I was like,
Colt, sorry, Cole in the chat.
I was like, this is the best charisma, chemistry chat between two actors in a video game probably ever. It just felt like every time a video game tries to capture conversation, there are so few of them that do it in a really natural kind of way. And I just felt like I loved the fact that like I played this so much and I still never ran out of things for Juliana and Colt to be talking to each other. Every time I loaded into a world, there was always like some new thing, some little quip or whatever. I loved the writing in like the letters left around, like the diaries. I just thought that like all of it ticks the boxes that I have of just like this hyper stylized world that just feels like it's oozing with a weird mix of like really fun and super fucking obnoxious people. Like the visionaries are all kind of, with the exception of maybe Charlie, who I found a bit sad, they're all just like assholes who you go like, I have no problem killing you 30 times in a game. But just hearing how they talk to each other and like the interviews that Juliana conducts with them about like why they're here and all their sort of self-inflated egos about like why they think they're the best person.
How long did everyone listen to the Alexis bobblehead for? Because I did it twice thinking I'd broken it. I listened to that whole spiel interview from Alexis in the bobblehead, like waiting for the mission thing to come up and say, and then he stops and starts again. I was like, I think I broke it. I'll listen to it all again. And it was like, the voice acting, wonderful. The writing, superb. But the 10 minutes I had to re-listen to it, I was like, oh God.
Yeah. I think it's about as good as it gets. At first, I bristled against it a little bit.
Yeah. I knew you would.
But I like, because I actually think some of the writing is a bit on the nose and cringe, but I think the performances are what sell the writing.
So good.
Like, I think he's like, Colt in particular is so charming to sell the lines that he sells. Like Juliana's writing, I think, is better. Colt as a character is like, he's not really a character at the start of the game because he's just this like amnesia gun wielder. And it's like, okay, you're just a video game dude. But the fact that he delivers everything he says, including hitting on his daughter with with like a real joy. Like the performance is brilliant.
I think arguably his best line that he delivered was, "Oh man, that is a great graphic." which is a line that was delivered by Jason Kelly, the voice actor of Colt, who retweeted when we sent the picture of this pockety on Twitter. He saw it and he replied, "Oh man, that is a great graphic." So props to the voice actor.
It's like,
That's awesome.
I did not get that. And
I don't remember that one.
That falls below in terms of writing. That I think that the world that they kind of set up was cool. I don't. I did see who wrote in Pete Lucrius.
Lucas, yep.
Overall, I love playing Deathloop and would love to see them expand on the concept. Honestly, my first playthrough was stealth, as I was always low chaos and Dishonored, but after a few hours, I quickly adopted a shoot first, look for important info second approach, which felt definitely preferred. And I think that the idea, I've seen a lot of talk about the idea of like this game being expanded, this world being expanded with like a Deathloop 2. And I'm so split on it because I go like, I would love to come back to this world. I would love to see like how it's such an ambitious foundation that I do think has restrictions. And I think that I think that like I totally take on everything that the criticisms of it and that thing of like the guiding at the beginning and not leaving a lot of mystery, like so much, like you're talking about, if you went a little more Dark Soulsy, if you went a little more like, hey, go discover something. But I think that I actually feel like Arkane are sick of making games that are like cult classics, and they wanted to make a game that was like both a cult classic and also, hey, a bestseller. Because I think that if you didn't handhold as much, I think people would give up on this game. I think there's too many things here, unless you're really being pulled through to sort of just go like, I'll go find, if you went more Outer Wildsy, Pete plays more video games than a lot of people I know and still can't get past that hump in Outer Wilds. Same as Gus. Like, it really is a turnoff for a lot of people. So the idea of returning to this once we all kind of know what it is, and then you could really expand with like, go into the world. But then I also feel like as a piece, it's so self-contained, and I don't know what the world is outside of this thing. It feels like it's like designed. This island was designed to only exist as an island, and if you went out into the world, it would inherently be less interesting because it's less like controlled and purpose built. Like the island is ridiculous because it's built for the idea that we're going to be here for the rest of our lives and we can't die, and it's just an orgy. And you can kill anyone you want every day. Like, I wonder if so that's why it's built for that. And it feels like if you went out anywhere else, that would be a letdown. And then if you put this island somewhere else, it's like, we already played that. That was the first game.
My only thing that I jump to would be do a Bioshock 2 and make you one of these faceless, crazy, glamorous guards who's kind of like, you're the enemy now, and the whole thing semi-switches around and do something like that. Like, because I agree with you, Nick. It's so
hard to sell that, though. People want to play the hero.
Oh, totally. But like, the way they did it in Bioshock 2 is like you were one of the big daddies kind of things, weren't you, at one point? Or like they just sort of took, was it 2? Yeah, one of them. They kind of shifted it entirely, and anyway, I just think there was two. There was a side to this that I wanted to sort of see more of that crazy wild party side, and not just use it as a backdrop, because it is so well done, and it is so like a blending of like that sort of 60s, 70s spy chic with some really cool music choices. It's like I actually wanted to spend more time in that party and stuff, but I was in caves running around facilities a bit more than I thought I would be in this.
There is an ending which alludes to potentially this having... I mean, there's a couple of endings which could allude to a sequel, but one in particular alluding to a sequel where potentially the effect of this island is broader than just the island. There's also a bunch of Dishonored in this, whether you take them as fun nods or... they're saying these are directly related, these universes?
I think it has to be. I think it had, like, the gun that you shoot her or don't shoot her with at the end and that she kills you with is from Dishonored. It's just a Dishonored gun.
Yeah, right.
And so it's like, I think that to me is not like a wink. That's not like, there's a spray painting of something that says like whale oil, or like, but it's literally like, no, this physical thing is here.
And she even says like these are relics from a like mysterious age or some bullshit. I can't remember exactly what she says, but she says the illusion is that they're from something. A real they exist. They're from something, another entity.
And we know that there's sort of dealing with dimensions and stuff like that already, with some of the characters being able to interact with different versions of themselves and stuff like that. So
totally
I feel like
it up to that.
it's totally possible.
Should we talk about
We could
the
see
ending?
Dishonored 3 is actually Deathloop too.
Ooh.
They could blend the two
Totally.
ideas.
That's how it
of,
gets
like,
us into Dishonored, is the game I'm kind of like Nick. I was just never really gelled with. So yeah.
And then also, I think that like while we're here, like talking about the endings, we all said that we were slightly disappointed with the ending. It does feel like it kind of came. Not that it came out of nowhere.
Which ending did everyone get? Because I obviously didn't play through to the end, so I just watched all three.
Can I say I'm Oh, sorry,
you go,
Nick,
Gus.
you go.
No, you go. You go.
I mistakenly got the good ending, as it's called, which is by not shooting her, because I'd forgotten in the moment. You obviously have this this duel where you both go to shoot each other, and the idea is if you both shoot each other, then you would break the loop. If you choose not to, the loop continues. But I panicked and I forgot that I'd killed 8 visionaries, and that's why killing me would do something different. So I was
why
like,
I'm here.
I was like, I don't want to shoot because I'm just going to wake up again on the island and do this all again. So I didn't shoot. And I woke up again on the island. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
But that ending is implying that you didn't want to kill your daughter and that you were happy to continue living in this loop. And
No, but if you killed her, you're not really killing her, right? You're just breaking the loop. So even if you kill her and then kill yourself,
but it's your way of saying I want out.
You're killing the death loop, and you both get to live out a normal mortal life.
In a life loop.
In a life loop, whereas I didn't do that. And then my ending was she was like, hey, cool, what do you want to do first? Do you want to go and get a beer? Do you want to go kill some more people? We're, father and daughter. This is cool. And he's like, yeah, this is cool. Ending credits.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm actually really happy with that, because I knew the game wasn't going to explore beyond the loop. So as an ending, that made me feel satisfied with this relationship, that I was like, I like Juliana, I like Colt, I want them to be happy.
You didn't feel unsatisfied that the one thing that you've been trying to do the entire game, you chose not to at the end?
Well, I feel like we should let the other guys mention, because it's actually not to do with where the story goes. It's just kind of how it finishes. Oh God, it's just how it kind of how it chooses to wrap it up. So I'm curious, because I didn't do this. I'm assuming Nick or Pete, one of you did this.
I've done all 3 endings because I did it once and I did not kill her.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did a day in 20 minutes. Like, by the time you know the loop, it's so fucking easy to just run back to the ending of the game. So I did 2 more runs, and
this is Colt we're
did
seeing
both the
here
other
currently,
endings.
killing Juliana and escaping the loop.
This is,
Yeah.
in my mind, the true ending of the game,
So
where all the
both
visionaries
died.
die. He's realized that he is also a visionary, and so everyone's dead. All 10 visionaries are dead. The 8 plus Juliana plus yourself. Or is she the 8th?
She's the 8th. It's 9.
Yeah, so 9.
Yeah.
So 9. You kill yourself as the 9th. And here we are. Like, she's pissed off because you've ruined the thing that she liked, but you've also woken up potentially, we might be in the year, they thought it's 1958 or whatever. It's actually 2558 and everything's fucked.
Yeah.
They've just been caught in there for God knows how long.
Totally.
All right.
And then she still has a slab, so she sort of disappears, and there is the potential for something else to happen. Gus, sorry, go.
I was just going to say, the slabs don't work. The magic doesn't work outside of the island's power. And that tease presents that the magic will continue to work now that the loop is over, everything's destroyed, and
we're imagining
we're looking at a very supernatural sky there.
We're imagining
potentially
that
the effect
radar
of the
dish.
island. That's what we're talking about. Has exploded, and
Yeah,
the
it got
magic
a
of the island
vroom over the
now
whole world, and now it's
covers the entire world, and
Yeah,
suddenly whale oil is the most important thing.
which I think if they did bring it together would be fantastic. It would be like I won't say what if you haven't seen Glass or the movie before it, whatever, Split. If you haven't seen Split,
yep.
then it would be like the
blends
ending of that where you
Untouchable.
just go like,
Yeah.
oh right, okay, this is where we're heading. I had the same, the good ending where I let her live. I then replayed and got everything, and I agree with all that as well. I think that the ending just feels like it sort of comes. I think what it is like it delivers what it says it's going to, but we're used to something else being attached to that. Like, it kind of goes, line up these visionaries, kill them, go to Juliana, kill her, break the loop. And it's like, yeah, that's what the game does. And then it's like, oh, but I thought you had something more in like there would be another realization that Colt has, because he's already had the big twist, which is she's his daughter. So it's like nothing else is really learnt beyond that. And it's not like he goes, oh, actually, there's one more thing I need to do, or if I do this, X, Y, and Z, it's kind of like, yeah, no, this is what you have had in your mind this whole time. That is the goal. So when it happens, I think I was like, oh, I was expecting more, but it's almost like I expected the developer to come up and go like, we told you. 20 hours. That was it.
But I
We've
don't
been
think
telling you
you're
this whole time. Your character keeps saying to yourself, like, this is
Yeah.
what, and so
I think it's more how abrupt it is, right? Like it's not
That's it.
doesn't.
It's not that it's not that you want more. It's that those endings really just like slam on the brakes. The point is, what I was going to say is my happy ending, so to speak. The majority of it was a black screen with some voice, just like VO'd, and stylistically, that's interesting. If you then have flashes of color and characters and some, like, this is one of the very few out of control cutscenes. Control taken away from you cutscenes that are in the game. There's very few of them.
Sorry.
And they are, in a sense...
the same one where he shoots her in the face.
They are, in a sense, satisfying because it's a moment to sit back and reflect. And even if that narrative goes the way that the developers intended or the story was setting up, I'm okay with that. But I need more than, I think, literally 40 seconds. When you wake up on the beach with the Juliana, it's all black and it's just some voice, and then you look at that beach section of the game and she's just standing on a rock really far away. She's like, hey, and then it goes to more VO and then end credits. I just think in terms of production value on that ending,
like, give me a montage of them going wild on
those
the island, because like the
cutscenes.
promise is like we're going to go wild on the island. Plus you've seen all these cults, like there's all these other cults running around all the time.
Oh yeah, there's that. But those orange stylistic cutscenes as well were beautiful. Every time Colt has a realization on how to kill someone, you get this beautiful kind of like pop art, like jazz, interesting little visual piece that really felt fantastic. I was like, I needed to see my ending done in that art style. This is me doing my like visual aesthetic art style kind of thing, but it's like I needed that to be the real kind of like nail in the, this is how we finish the game in all these versions of the endings. I even think that the other one was kind of a black screen with voice. It was just like, your one was the most visually interesting, Pete, but they still kept it there for 10 seconds.
I think it like at least is, for me, it's the most satisfying ending because it implies change. The other one, the second most satisfying one is the one you're talking about, where father and daughter choose to live in the loop together and
eventually make love.
And that's a satisfying concept, but not the way it's delivered.
That's the ending about acceptance.
Yeah.
Yes. And like part of, I think, the story that doesn't get sold properly across to you, but there's hints of it, and there's like very like direct mention of it in like the archive in the vault at the
library?
Where is it?
Or is the
Fraggle Rock? It's not Fraggle
no,
Rock.
I called it Fisted. I called it Fisted. I called it Fisted Rock. So yeah,
Fisted Rocks. Once you get in there, you kind of get a bit. It kind of just like all the codes to all the doors and stuff are in there, and like it's just like this is all the information about the game.
Is that also where the code for the delivery system that I never used once is? Like all those, where it's like, it goes. The delivery booth is right near the exit. It's like the one thing in the whole game where I'm like, I never used it the entire game. Stop, like, go away. Stop telling me that.
So there's this like thread of cult that I don't think properly comes through, that is kind of revealed in pieces of paper that you find in that place. That obviously Lila is the woman that he loved and lost when he flew to this island and was stuck in the loop for 17 years. Meanwhile, she had a child, raised it, and died. So when he gets off the island, his wife's gone. Part of the reason that he comes back is convinced to come back by Igor is he wants to find a way to manipulate time to go back and be with her again. And once he realizes that he has a daughter, it's like the trade. He never makes that emotional trade-off of going like, I don't need to find my wife if I have a piece of her with me here, and I should love what I have and not try and go back in time. And it's like, that's like a really fucking strong ending, right?
Yeah.
Safe love, paternal love. That's a really strong ending, I think. But I don't think the cutscene.
What we just saw there.
All the way there. It just doesn't get us all the way there.
It's such an I understand that ending anything is hard, but it's such an interesting choice to be so minimal with the way they finish it, especially in a video game, because in a game you've been working towards something for so long, and like for any player, the payoff is that sense of accomplishment that they've achieved something. And any one of those endings can be satisfying for people if they deliver them in the right way. But it's like they have this desire to be like deliberately vague so that they are putting less importance on the ending and it's more about the journey, which I understand, but at the same time, like
this one just in particular feels so like the budget was pulled. Like give me a 5-minute cutscene where you're both on the beach having a barbecue around
just
a campfire.
a really nice
She
conversation.
Has a drink,
like
has a
they're such
conversation,
good
hands you a gun,
actors.
and then says, you know, well, let's go kill people again. He's like, yeah, I'm glad. Just a bit of a moment to sit in what that decision that got made, and it really doesn't give it to you. Is there a
I totally.
So the third ending is that you kill her and you sit down,
meaning
which
that
means
not
that
all
you're
the
not
visionaries
friends
have.
and the loop continues.
Yeah.
And so she wakes up.
Right.
You wake up the next day, and she's like pissed that you shot her. But I totally agree about the idea of not like sitting in that moment and giving it its weight. But I do also think that the other problem with the ending, I guess, for me is that, and I guess you could say it's bold, but the whole time loop thing, it's kind of just, it is what it always was. Like there's no explanation behind it. Not that I'm looking to like solve the time loop thing, but it's kind of like the game drip feeds you information quite early on about like, this is what's happening in this world. And at the end of the game, you go, yeah, that's what was happening in that world. And I think knowing Arkane, and particularly like I look at Prey, and Prey, there are like 3 moments in Prey scattered throughout the game that fundamentally like change what you think you were doing the entire time. And the last one, as insane as it is, it still does this recontextualizing of just going, oh my God, the last 20 hours of my life, that's what I was actually doing. And I think that when you say time loop video game, there is just an expectation that something else is happening here, that there is another element of like, there is some more wildness going on here that is going to be revealed to you. And so for that not to be revealed, but then also for the emotional payoff to not be like weighty and solid, you just go, it feels a bit undercooked on both levels.
And then they hit you with that end credit song, and you're like,
and then they hit you with the fucking James
home,
Bond, the James Bond ending credits, and it's just like, but I think it is that situation where I think as well, like you've spent so much of this game ending the game, like you end a round, you end a day, you loop back, you end over and over and over again, that the final ending is like, oh, I've been doing this the entire time. I could have been doing so much more. Like you could have done so much more as the developer. So yeah, I think that was let down. The last thing I'll say, the worst part of this game for me, and I think I told Pete this, was I did everything. I got to the final day. I set everything up. I was like, this is the run. This is when I'm going to finish it. I am ready to go. Boom, boom, boom. I start going through all the different levels, all the different time periods, dropping all the pieces to make sure that everything works. I was like, this is going so fucking well. I get to the last level. I get to the castle. Bang, bang. Alexis, dead. I sneak through. Wenji, dead. Igor, dead. I'm just like, I'm a machine. Like this took so much work and so much effort, and I finally got there. Fuck yes. I'm incredible. I'm gonna finish this game. And then I just start running off, and I'm like, oh my God, I did it. God, I'm making it to the end. And I just out of muscle memory run to the exit door instead of the rack door to get in the plane to go see Juliana, just because I like 40, 50 times in this game, I just go to the, and I get to the ending door and I'm like, God, yes. And I click the button and it's like, do you want to leave? And I'm like, yes. And it is just like boom, boom, boom. And I click, and as my finger is like going down to the final like space bar or whatever it is at the end, it's like, are you sure? Because you'll lose everything. I'm like, yes. Wait, what? And
you'll lose everything, game. Wait a minute.
And then fucking Colt does his like strut out about like, yeah, day well done. Like, and even survived a Juliana invasion. Just she's dead on the other side, like shaking her head at me and shit. And I'm just like, and like Pete said, once you know how to do it, it's like a 20-minute run to get there. But it was this moment of like having like ultimate blue balls of just like, I got all the way to the end and then I was just, no! But finally, I think that we've got sort of wrapping up with this. I think the next thing that we're seeing from Arkane is Redfall, which got announced earlier this year. That's sort of like
super excited about
open
Redfall.
world action venture, first person zombie shooter, vampire shooter thing. I feel like it's so up Steph's alley, and I feel like it really could be. they've taken a lot of the lessons from Moon Crash, that sort of like roguelike DLC that they had for this game. And I think that if they could take the lessons that they've learned from this and applying it to Redfall, it could be like, that could be the real masterwork. And this is the like entree to the masterwork. And I feel like it's so much more in Steph's wheelhouse, that game.
Yeah, it just looks super stylish. I love that they're making a co-op shooter, but in a world that looks really cool and gothic and like fantastical as well. I think the different ability, just all we've seen really from it is that kind of, cutscene-y trailer. But
the
just
DNA is still there.
The DNA is still there. Those cool kind of, what do you call it? They were kind of like pillars of energy that acted like lifts that pulled people up, and the different abilities that the characters were using. It looks like it's going to be a really fun way to play through that kind of genre, but with friends, which is what I'm specifically loving right now.
So keen for it. And so to round us out, we of course have a competition that we run each Game Club episode to give away a very nice copy of the Game Club notebook that are all in the studio, with the back pocket mug, which is also in the studio. So we've got a backlog of those to give away to people when we finally can go back in there. But of course, a copy of next month's game as well to hand out. And we've got some runners up and a winner for this competition. So Gus, do you want to start us off with our first runner up for the competition? If you had to get Nick, Pete, Gus, and Steph all in the same place at once, how would you do it?
Certainly. A runner-up is Nanogenes. Congratulations, Nanogenes, who writes, luckily, my loop begins 10 years ago. I wake up on the beach of Manly and immediately get to action. I schmooze my way to the top, up through the political ranks, all while making myself appealing to a young Gladys, with whom I start an intimate relationship. I start getting myself into dodgy deals, and I leave breadcrumbs of her involvement. In 2020, I slip up and allow the ICA or ICAC to catch her trail. Fortunately, I've been secretly ensuring the most right-wing, fiscally conservative nutbag is in the prime position to take her place as premier. This is too soon. The pieces are in place. Skip to October 2021. Gladys resigns as the anti-lockdown politician takes over. Bam! The following Thursday, the entire Back Pocket crew are back in the low-key studios. Well done, Nanogenes. Well done. You killed us. You killed us and all of Sydney.
Steph, our second runner-up.
The second runner-up is Kane Wishart, or Kane Lavos, who submitted this. Group email as follows. Urgent. Scardy has fallen into a grain silo. That would call Steph. The silo was inexplicably filled with freshly made, still warm cinnamon donuts, and the only way to save her is for someone to eat their way through to the center of the silo. There you are, Nick. If someone with sufficient video production skills were to document all of this, it would surely win awards. So Pete's come. Emotionally vulnerable single women with a penchant for hanging out near a porto are reportedly in the vicinity. So now we have Gus.
What?
Why? Come on.
If someone with sufficient video production skills were to document what happened next, it would surely make for a great post-show segment. Pete again.
He gets there twice, but I'm a predator? Oh my God.
Well, he gets it twice. He gets there twice, and he's filming you with the women.
I was just filming. I was documenting Nick breaking world records on the amount of donuts consumed in a single day.
Yeah.
And then swung the camera around to you going, hey.
Oh my God. Everyone knows I'm at Red Bruce. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Our third runner-up is from Lyle. Lyle says, I have a very cunning plan. I hire Loki for video production.
That's good. That's good.
We're there. And we get paid, so we get paid.
Right.
Yeah, everybody
works for everyone.
We're doing. So those are very good. Those are very good entries. We got tons of great entries. It was very hard to nail this one down. But the winner of the competition for this week is Mito.
Hey.
With, to get Nick, Pete, Steph, and Gus all together in one place, I would simply seduce Gus. This part is easy. All it requires is for there to never be a second of silence between us, which Gus will happily provide through a constant stream of nervous chatter. Mm-hmm. Eventually, Gus will make the very human mistake of confusing the feeling of comfort for that of love. When Gus has fallen in love with me, I will propose to him, and we would get married with his dream wedding, which he has told me about countless times. Nick, Steph, Pete would all be invited
We're all
to
at
the
the wedding.
which they would attend out of love and excitement for their friend and colleague,
Oh.
or at the very least obligation.
Oh.
Then, with everyone gathered in place, I would be free to finally enact my master plan. When the celebrant asks if I would take Gus to be my lawfully wedded husband, I would turn to him and say, I do, because I've realized that I too have fallen in love with Gus. He's won me over with his rugged handsomeness, his confident and wholesome charm, his endearing, kooky antics, and his impeccable conversation skills. Gus and I, Steph and Pete, Nick and Will, we'd all drink and dance and laugh and party into the night, overflowing with love for each other and our friendships. In that moment, my initial reason for gathering the crew in one place would be the furthest thing from my mind. In the early hours of the morning, everyone would go home, delirious from joy and wine, my master plan abandoned and unfulfilled. Gus and I would move into a small one-bedroom apartment in the city. He would have my favorite dessert waiting for me when I get home from work, and we would never get around to fixing that light switch.
No!
We would live happily ever after, and I would forever keep from him my terrible secret.
Wow. See, that's a good twist.
Holy shit!
That's a good
twist.
twist. Twist after twist. Wow.
So good.
So
Oh
good.
my gosh.
Oh, so good. So
Wow.
thank you. Well done, Mito. So you have won yourself a back pocket notebook, a back pocket mug, and a copy of next month's Game Club
And
game.
my heart.
A copy of your heart. Though,
A
not
copy,
the
or
actual
to the
one.
value of my heart.
$100 PSN credits for Gus's heart. And with this discussion Deathloop done, we can announce the August game for the Back Pocket Game Club, and that game is going to be, drumroll, we don't know yet.
4 stars in a row.
Yeah.
According to the script.
Yep.
We're going to pick something. We still haven't landed on something because there's a lot coming out, but we kind of feel like we need to find the right thing, and we just wanted to make sure that we get there.
Yep.
Whatever it is, Pete will be taking lead on the next one, and we will announce it pretty soon. Trust me, Dirty.
Did you say August again? August is still in the script as well.
Did I say August? I
You said next month.
I think I just said
It's
next
time
month
limit.
because I'm a
There's
professional.
a few
But,
games we
you're
want to
professional.
stream a couple of streams of that we don't think we'll make Game Club games streams. So we'll
Yeah.
play a few of them and we'll fill out some of the weekly streams with those. So you will still see those games, just maybe not with the deep dive that the Game Club does supply.
Yeah, and then we'll when we pick one, we'll let you know, and everyone will have fun. So thank you very much, guys, for this discussion of Deathloop. I feel like we got some things off our chest, and I am very happy that I got to play this game and that I got to play this game tangentially with you guys. So thank you very much for spending this afternoon with me.
What's that?
Thank
Mino is just. I gotta go, guys. We're making
right.
bread
cool.
together.
What a twist.
No, that's going to be great. I'm really happy for you, dude.
All right, thanks.
Are you
No,
committed?
you have to go.
You have to
thank
go.
God, because it's so sad if you stay there. Oh God, he can't not leave. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. We're going to be back tomorrow night with the main episode of Back Pocket. And until then,
Yeah.
shall we back it out?
Let's go bake bread.